Listen to these two old guys fart
I
around,
actually find your podcast quite
and we're not
interesting.
even that old.
I don't know how I should take that word interesting.
Hmm. That's coming from my generation where
Right.
I have
Interesting for your generation's like,
we listen to it for like a minute, get bored.
right.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm not fully out of touch yet, but every day I realize I'm like, oh, yeah, I am getting older. And that's just an unsettling sensation of just seeing yourself slowly not. I mean, I wasn't
Zach,
cool to begin with. And now I'm just like,
how old are you now,
I'm
Zach?
not
15,
cool.
14,
Yeah,
15? 15?
15.
So, okay. Best way to put it like this, Sam. Um,
Yes.
the Kevin Harvick Daytona 500, where Boyer's on his lid. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like barely born.
Or
Oh my God.
2007, I want to say.
Back in my day. All right, we're already getting there. All right, and welcome to Just Here for the GLSR. My name is Sammy B. I am the driver of the 22 truck and also one of the admins here in the truck series. And I am joined by Chris Scala, the voice of GLSR.
After this week,
the
I might be
captain.
known as like the guy that plays mind games with the league.
Yeah, there's some tomfoolery going on about your corner.
I know nothing.
But we got something pretty big here.
Mhm.
We have a champion. We have a race winner, and correct me if I'm wrong, the most winningest.
He's
Great
the
Lakes
first
sim racing
double-digit
driver?
winner in league history.
Yeah,
First double digit. Zach Ahmann on the
I'm
show.
not sure how long that'll last. Let's see how many wins Ricky gets next season.
Oh man, he doesn't care about if there's gonna be a GSLR news segment. He's like, guess who is GSLR news? It's so yeah. Hello and welcome. I'm Dick Richardson. Breaking news. Ricky Springer's here to come and take your joy and
Again.
happiness. Again. Yeah, no, before we even talk about the race, we might as well just lead in with some news. Ricky Springer is pretty much confirmed to be coming back for season 5. All signs point to go. Ben said that apparently during all of our season 5 track talk, when we had that episode going on and the post where I posted the schedules of the Instagram, he sent that to Ricky because we were talking about guys who might be coming back to join a certain team captained by a certain captain. He showed it to him and he apparently was like, all right, yeah, that looks fun. I could get down with that. And so that's just all it took to get him back into the series. So
Sounds like you need to go change the schedule.
Because I don't really know what I could change to make it better.
I think you
or
just
worse.
need to make it a track full of races that Ricky didn't win next season. So like 5 Phoenixes, a few super speedways in there. There's
Pretty much.
Pretty much. No, I am excited. I know it's discouraging for some people when someone as alien as Ricky does race with us, but I mean the fact that we all have people around us who I think push each other, and each season you see guys kind of gain and I don't want to say lose ability, that's not fair, but like different seasons different guys take those jumps. I think the biggest improvement this year out of everyone I've seen is Alan Best. Like that's a flagship guy who has stepped up his game from a season 2 seasons ago. But a guy like Ricky being included in the league doesn't, we can all pressure each other in the midfield, but the front was already getting pretty intense this season. We'll talk about that more later. Having him back will really add some extreme pressure to those front runner guys who are usually able to jostle with each other. They'll have to be thinking about the fact that there's someone out there who's very fast. So, I mean, especially like Zach, I am intrigued because, usually when I went up against Ricky, I was just letting him by. I'm not anywhere in his league. You're someone who is raising him more often than not when he was around for season 4. What are you thinking? What are you feeling knowing that he'll be back?
I think we're really just gonna have to see how it plays out in Auto Club, just because of the fact that I know I've stepped my game up, and I'm sure he has as well. So I feel like it's gonna be a tighter battle between us two, considering my season 3 wasn't my strongest. So I'm hoping that I can maybe have more than one win next season and kind of make it interesting with Ricky.
What do you think? I know you said you've been improving, and I do believe that, but what do you feel like was so far your most successful season? I know we're not done with this one yet, so I don't want to count this one out, but your overall performances that you feel like you've been hitting those goals for yourself.
I feel like personally, this season's been great, but I feel like season 2, the championship winning season, was probably my strongest because I felt like I could run top 5 consistently, maybe even top 3, and you know, it just felt like me and Keith and actually all of Ace was very strong that season.
Yeah, but now granted, this was the ace that included Christopher Dean, Chris Evans, William Martin, and William Calhoun, who have now all really shifted around. It's funny we it's interesting that some teams have held around in name and some teams have every season changed their name. So, but yes, it'll be interesting to see how the teams shake out for next season. Now, we will get into the details of talking about you, Zach, and your young history. I don't want to be like back in my day. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to really try and promise that we're not going to ramble about how we feel old and slow. But I want to talk about playoff race 1 that was at Lucas Oil Raceway. Zach, you won it, and I might sound a bit. I'm not going to say controversial because it was not a. I don't think we've had a short track race that has not had controversy, but that's short track racing, baby. I think this was one of the most fascinating short track races we've ever had. I don't remember a race where people come and go up the grid quite like that race. Usually, it's just people fan out. You have your fast short tracks guys, they go up to the front. Your slow guys who can't keep up fall to the back. This was a race where the craziest fact of the night, Tanner Long span out lap 6. I don't know how many laps he fell down.
He was 2 down at one point, I believe, in that race. But, yeah, he finished his 6th. And the one thing I took away from that race, just right off the bat, off the top of my head here, is passing for the lead. I mean, you look at the way the race started. Chris Evans leads the first, 40 or 50 laps of that race. And, I mean, let's be honest. You could tell he wasn't the fastest truck on the track because at one point you had like 7 trucks lined up like it's I-95 trying to get around him, but he was running a good defensive line and held people off.
I mean, heck, oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But like, my teammates were saying, like, we're starting to stack up. Like, we gotta get moving. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like, at the same time, I don't want to just like completely run him out of the lane. So at some point, I was just like, let's let Noah by, kind of see what happens. And then me and Keith kind of had a little incident, but I'm gonna say that probably wasn't the worst incident he had all night.
No, it wasn't. But and then of course, adding on to the leader thing, Noah Maori does something that only his 3 other teammates have done this season, and unfortunately moves Chris out of the way in a not so nice way. That brings a caution out, or actually doesn't bring the caution out, but then Noah leads for a while, and then Noah makes a mistake, and then Zach leads the rest of the race. So there was tons of passing in the race, but it wasn't up front for the lead. It seemed like when you got out there in that clean air, you were the guy to beat.
Yeah, my truck felt like it could like it just handled way better out front than compared to when I was like behind trucks. I'm not sure how big of an impact dirty air really is at that small track, but it definitely felt like it made an impact.
I really feel like probably, especially being in the lead, it's how you can. Granted, I'm garbage at short tracks, so I'm going to be talking complete bull. But I really feel like it's how you can focus more on corner out than corner in, because it's so easy to want to just this again. This is all I ever do is overshoot corner entry, mess up corner exit. But when you're out on your own, you can just focus on nailing your spots and getting going down the track. Where the rest of us, we're all we're trying to figure out how to get by. It's a one lane track, and you can just hold that outside line and really keep someone behind you for a while, and you could see what people were able to stay patient and who weren't. I feel like the greatest, I'm not going to say disappointment, the biggest surprise of someone who just couldn't get their rhythm going, and let their not panic, they were just really racing hard out there. It was Christine, and we were just talking over chat, and he had some early wall taps, fell back a little bit. And I know, again, you're talking about how hard it is to pass. He genuinely, I believe, was just trying to get through the field. He hit, I think, 3 cars in a row. I think it was, let me try to remember. I think it was Ben. Then I think it was William Martin. Then I think it was Travis. I think he bumped into Travis. Like, it's just, I think a lot of it even comes down to not even just aggression, just how difficult and how fine of margins you have to cut to really try and maximize speed at this track. But
the couple things that you said there. First things first, I think you kind of contradicted yourself at the beginning, because first off, you said you stink on short tracks. Meanwhile, you were up in the top 5 at one point in that race, and then you kind of saved yourself in the second part because you said you're not really good at driving out of the corner, when obviously we'll talk about here in a few minutes, you went Spinaruski there in turn 3 on entry. But then you did kind of say later in your comments that you overdrive the entry a little too much sometimes on fresh tires. But on the Dean part, I wonder how much Chris was actually feeling pressured at the fact that he led 150 laps in that race a couple seasons ago that Zach won. He led all those laps, and then Wednesday night, he starts, I think it was 6th or something like that. And he doesn't even make turn 1, and he's already scuffed up the right side of his truck. And I think 2 or 3 laps straight, he goes into turn 1 and misses the corner and wipes the wall out. And Caden, Zach's teammate, has a crushed in nose within 2 laps of the start of the race. And it affects his race pretty much throughout the night. And I think it goes back to that whole, when something bad happens to you, how do you react to it? Because I think in that situation, he keeps reacting by hitting the wall again, hitting other vehicles, and he starts moving people. It made it a bad night for him, where if he takes a deep breath after hitting that wall that first time, it's like, okay, take a deep breath. Mistakes happen. We'll get the truck fixed. Be patient. 220 lap race. You've got 219 in a corner to go to get to the front.
I mean, I'm not exactly sure how Chris thinks about it, but the way I think about it, at least at this track, was like when I hit the wall, that's all my mind thinks about. I'm not even focused on the race no more. I'm just focused on not hitting the wall, because I mean, that's like the biggest deal, just trying to stay off of it. And I know it's hard to do, but sometimes just taking a deep breath can always help.
And I was going to say, Sam, he's exactly right. And one example I always bring up off that topic, Sam, you were a baseball player, right? Okay. 3-0 pitch. What are you taught to do in Little League?
You're always taught to watch it go by no matter what.
So how many times in your head did you say don't?
A lot. Well, it's funny, like going back to the mental approach, and you remarked about how I wound up to fifth twice in that race. I got up to fifth.
Swing, don't swing, don't swing,
I
don't swing.
hate short tracks a lot, and I'm not going to pretend that it was all my skill and that I am a master and I'm just that good. Like no, like a lot of it was I'll admit I showed up. I had not done a single lap. I just went into practice and I asked Dean. I'm like, okay, where's corner entry? Where's your braking point? And I'm just going to try and turn as many laps as I can before green. And I literally was just focused on keep the truck off the wall. Don't hold up anybody. I think the only person I had some fun wheel to wheel action with was in that early stint was I think me and Alan had a little battle, but I didn't hold him up too much. And I think me and Bondurant had a good side by side action for a little bit, but again, I wasn't out to murder myself. And it just all of a sudden, just by being calm and just focusing on hitting those breaking points, I felt like I could feel myself getting faster as the race went, to where when I ended up fifth later on fresh tires, feeling a little cocky, feeling a little confident, feeling like, okay, let's get racy, I feel comfortable. That was the second I overcook it, was when I started not believing I could do it, but start thinking, okay, let's push the boundary, let's try to go fast. And then immediately it was like a joke. I was just around. Like it just goes to show how much being good is being not only patient, but allowing yourself to just hit your, especially, and people have described short tracks to me, again, I'm bad at short tracks, as find that rhythm, find that beat, find that, accelerate, brake, turn in, throttle off, accelerate, brake. And I finally figured out, like, that's the first time it's ever clicked in any short track race I've ever done, which was a cool feeling.
Well, I think part of it too is there's so many different ways to survive a short track race. And one of the ways to do it, and it's kind of a challenging one, is not to get involved in other people's messes or create your own. And Sam, you did that during that race. At the beginning of that race, you kept yourself out of messes. And by doing that on a track that's tough to pass, you stole track position. And by doing that, you're all of a sudden up in the top 5. And then unfortunately, yeah, you made your mistake. But those kind of things happen. You go back to lap 190, I think it is. You got Travis up in the lead, and all of a sudden the caution fest starts, and Travis comes within. I mean, if let's put it like this, if the race was the actual truck distance length that it used to be at that track, which was 200 laps, Travis wins that race.
It was a long race. I think we're going to need to shorten that race in the future. I don't know, Zach, what you think about that, but I know we all agreed once we got done with that race, just me and Travis and Blaine and Dean, we all were exhausted, and we're like, that was probably about, like you said, about 20 laps too long. Again, we went farther than when the trucks would go there. But Zach, that's a good question I have for you is, what were your thoughts when you line up alongside Travis and you know that it's a hard to pass the track? Wow. It's a hard track to pass at. And Travis, who's leading, is on some old tires. Like, how patient did you have to be?
My first instinct was, all right, he's on probably older tires. But, like, once I look at my, tire wear, I see it's only 5%. And I started thinking to myself, Travis could actually win this race. Mm-hmm. And then it just starts, just keeps on coming back into my mind. And then green flag flies, and I just try to be patient with him. But there was some point where I was like, okay, people are catching me from behind. I got to force the issue a little bit. But it was a little frustrating at the same time, because I think the first, caution that came out after Travis got the lead, I was looking low on him and thinking I could probably get this fast, but then we got to line him back up, and me personally, I was thinking of 50 different ways I could have passed him.
And he picked the right one.
Yeah, no, I mean, you did get there. I'm trying to remember now. Did he just got loose?
He got loose later. He got loose later after he'd lost the lead. But Travis ran a great defensive line, and as Zach mentioned, his tires weren't much older than the fields, because I remember hearing Travis on the microphone say, yeah, my tires are only 5% off or something like that. It was a very low number.
Yeah, I was,
and it's like he held Zach off for probably a good 5 to 10 laps. You know, there were a couple cautions also in there too. The mistake he made, and I can tell you exactly what probably happened, is either one, he got really tight coming through turn 2 and it snapped on him coming off, or two, he had to wheel turn too much on the transition to banking, and that caused him to get loose and get down into Dalton.
Well, I mean, certainly I think Travis, like, that was probably his best race I've ever seen him run, honestly. That or like Daytona, but I mean, like, it was hard to pass him, and some people could probably say, "Oh, it's just a track," but I mean, he was like, he was probably even with me for a good 5 laps.
Might have been the paint scheme.
Yeah, I think he might. I think a lot of people who had good runs might just have to keep the paint scheme, see what type of luck they get.
Well, we were all talking about the paint schemes because we all wanted to do throwback DUR paints. And so Blaine did his first paint he ever ran in the league, which was ironically a Jeff Gordon throwback already. We were just trying to, like, I wanted Dean to pick a fun one, so we had him do his Whataburger Lowe's paint I made for him, of which at the very last minute we were able to slap a DUR logo on the wing, but it still said Aced all over it.
Still that sticker on there.
It's just like, and we were talking about it, and it's like, I swear to God, if Dean gets his first DUR win in a truck that says Aced all over it, I'm gonna hate myself. But and so then I was like, well, we got to have one Black Horizon truck, so I did my Rusty Wallace paint, which I considered a cursed paint. I've never run good in that paint. Now I don't know what to think, because I always call that my cursed, one of my, okay, no, the only other cursed paint I've got, which Zach will know, is my Chicago Finale paint, of which I murdered him with last year. I've always wrecked out in that paint, so I'm sure Zach remembers that paint very well, plowing into the side of his car.
On the topic of paint schemes, I remember when I first started joining this league and running, my first instinct was just find some random paint on trading paints. And then as, like, I think I probably crashed out of my first race. I was like, nope, choose a different paint. And I just kept going until I kind of found a rhythm, and I just kept that paint scheme.
Well, now let me guess. Would it be the Interstate Batteries paint? Because I always feel like that's your lucky paint.
I definitely think it was my luckiest paint. I think I got like probably like 6 or 7 of my 9, maybe not 6, like 4. So at least about like 45-50% of my wins in that truck, which I always liked. And I was thinking maybe someday I should try and get like some throwback or something to kind of look like that truck, maybe.
You know what? Here comes the first of the, man, you know, we're old win of the podcast, because we're going to have that tonight. I don't think Zach has ever been alive for anybody other than Kyle Busch in the 18 car.
I think you're right. Wait, 2006 in July, so
and well, that would have been, I think, JJ Yaley at that point. And then obviously Labonte before that, and then all the way back to Dale Jarrett before that. So it's like, I'm just like putting in my head, that's the only, like, I'm thinking of 18 throwbacks that he could run, and I'm like, man, he doesn't know anything but the M&Ms or the Interstate Batteries or the, you know, the Snickers, the M&Ms, stuff like, it's like he has nothing about those.
I mean, most people, like, whenever, like, when I was younger and people were like, what's your favorite driver? I was like, Kyle Busch. They're like, oh, because of Candy. And I was like, no, it's because, like, he drives aggressive. I like his driving style. And I tried to mimic it sometimes, and it probably gets me in trouble quite a bit as well.
I was about to say, you could never tell that, like, he's the driver you look up to. You'd never see it. And I've said this before in different shows, on different occasions. I think back to our early days, like season 1, season 2, and people gave you a lot of crap, and people still do, but your maturity has advanced leaps and bounds over the relatively short amount of time that we've done this league. So I'm and that token, I'm just saying, I'm just impressed, because you act above your age. I forget how young you actually are, because we're just racing out there and I don't even think about it. But, you know, your maturity level as just in and out of the car has advanced.
I feel like it plateaued a
tremendously.
bit when Colton Zimmer kind of joined the team. At that point, it kind of
What minute mark are we at? That's the first Colton Zimmer reference we've had.
I mean, it kind of evened out, went down a little bit, and then I think after Wilkesboro, me and Colton pissed off I think Justin Laxton and Ricky Springer, and we had to actually have like a long 40-minute call with him talking about how we can, kind of resolve our issues on the track. So that was fun.
Well, and this might sound, I don't know, not preachy, but I hope that we can have a league where that's possible. And I know for some people, they're like, oh, we don't want any of the younger kids, blah, 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 blah. In part, I get that. But I like the fact that we are a place that have a wide span of ages, of backgrounds, of locations, of histories. Because the fact is, we all can learn stuff from you guys just as much as I think you're learning stuff from us.
Here's the thing about that, Sam.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off like that. I think of like the league I've helped run for years. It's been around since 2014, but even before that, I've been on iRacing 9 years. 2012 was my first year in Memorial Day weekend. And by Labor Day, I'm starting to kind of join leagues and racing with them and stuff like that. And you get to a point where I joined iRacing I'm 24 at that point, right? 26. I'm sorry. Now at 35, you realize that at that point you're one of those young cats, and now it's like I look at myself and some of these other guys. We have to be the examples for Zach and for the young guys that, if I'll mention Colton's name and obviously some of the PPM guys, they're younger guys. I mean, let's face it, they're all right around, between 14 and 21. I mean, they're in that age range. I believe that's all of them in that age range, but we got to be the example to them, because when they get to our age, there's gonna be a whole other generation of iRacers coming in that they're going to have to show them, and we're going to be, racing with G65 wheels at that point, probably instead of 29s or whatever. And it just shows you like what this has done. It's like, and I've realized this, like racing against people that I remember sounding like, as friends and I like to call them, Chuck E. Cheesers back in the day. And now these kids got deep voices and are in high school, and it's like, I remember racing them and they were kids.
I mean, to comment on that, I was just thinking, like, in a few years, I'm going to be out of high school, and then there's going to be these new kids that are probably just coming into iRacing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like me, I got it on Christmas. They came in, and they're probably just going to all beat my butt. And to be quite frank, I feel like that's going to be a weird feeling, because I felt like I was that kid at one point.
Sucks getting old.
Yeah, it sure does. Now, before we get too carried away on the, back of my
Put your
day
teeth back in, Sam.
conversations, we're going to button up. Oh, thank you. Now they're back in. I want to talk about our standouts, surprises, and underperformances of our playoff drivers. Going into race 2, Pocono, a track we've never gone to. Now, obviously, Zach won. It's a flat short track. I'm not surprised. That is no surprise there to me. Noah had a tough break. Him and William battling very hard. I won't even say hard. I'm going to say very hard. And Will was a bit on the over-aggressive side. I'm going to say that he was on the over-aggressive side for the end of that race. But Noah still has the points over him at Zach at 180, Noah 170, Will 166, Caden sitting in the fourth spot there of 155. So 3 of the top 4 are still PPM drivers. So we'll see. Guess who's in 5th? Blaine Sparling. He's still there. He's still just looming in the background, hitting those consistent results. Sitting sixth in the playoff standings right now. Jason Dalton, seventh. Christopher Dean again. Hugely bummer of a race for him at a track that I was kind of ready for him to be battling at the front, and it just didn't come together. Tough break for Dane. Tough break for Allen, who was looking super fast, blew the engine, and the toughest break for Sean Peach. And Sean, oh buddy,
Wow.
I'm sorry. Oh, maybe he's gonna win at Indianapolis just for not that he couldn't
He's good
win
at
at
Indy.
Pocono.
He's good at
But
Indy.
we all know how he's good at Indy. I could see him making a statement win to be like, "Hey, don't forget about me. I'm still really good." I mean, he was pole last year at Indianapolis.
I believe so, yeah. And he
Wasn't he?
was running with Ricky in that race.
So, yeah, I would not count him out for a solid. I know people, and I'm not trying to be like, don't stop believing, but we've seen how crazy these races get. It's going to be a big uphill battle for Sean to go from last in the playoff standings to in the top four, but really, we've seen how hard these guys are racing. If things fall a certain way and he has two stalwart performances, I know he can do them. We know his speed. Anything is possible. But what are you thinking, Chris? Seeing how things
first
shook
things
out for
first,
the
what does
playoff
Sean have to
drivers?
lose at this point? Nothing. He's got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
He can take chances, go out there and do whatever he needs to do. Unfortunately, he's been in bad spots every week, it seems like, and it falls on him when it's all over with. I think shout out to Zach and his team, the PPM guys. I mean, Keith kind of said it there in the broadcast, but you know what? If you go back and watch the broadcast of the race at around lap, I want to say about 175 or 180, I start bringing up here we go again. PPM dominating the race and not going to win this thing, or at least run well. And all of a sudden, with the cautions breaking out at the end, all of a sudden there's Zach in first, Caden's in third, Noah's in fifth. I mean, they're all right there again. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I take my words back. So credit to them for a great run. They had a great night, obviously points wise for all four or three of the four individually. You look at Dalton. I looked at Dalton. I made that pick last week of him being in my final four. And I did that based off of him running really well in a short track. And you saw again, he ran well because it's a short track. But unfortunately, he got hooked into the wall, and I think he was able to salvage a top 10 out of it. But I expected big things out of him that night. And unfortunately, the finish didn't show with the results of how he was running. Obviously, you feel terrible for Sean. Allen, unfortunately, blew the engine up. I thought he did a money shift, to be honest with you. I didn't realize he actually blew it up due to damage. And just laying under the radar is what exactly he's doing. He's just kind of laying low. And we need to take it. I think I've covered everybody. Just off the top of my head here, to me, when it was all over with that night.
I mean, one thing I know for sure about Dean is that when he's like in a whole performance, have everything work out for him, because he even had issues with Caden at Phoenix and still sound he has a.
Oh yeah, I would not count out Dean. I really think that yes, it wasn't an ideal start. It might be I mean, talk about someone who was fast at Indianapolis. Let's remember that insane battle between Will and Dean at Indianapolis last year, and how William just squeaked into the playoffs by
it was 1 position.
points?
It was 1 position,
not like barely anything. Yeah, like, but Dean was still up there. So I mean, don't count out Dean for being fast at Indianapolis. From what I can recall, I think he really likes Pocono. I think he was really excited for these playoffs, and I know he was disappointed that things didn't shake out at IRP, because that's another track he really likes. Not a playoff driver, but we got to give a shout out to it. I got to commend William Martin for driving a great race too, because I mean I think that's the best overall result for Bully Racing
Well,
all season.
outside of
I think
Williams
that's
wins,
their
I think that's actually Martin's best career finish. I'll have to look at that. I don't think he's had a top 3 finish yet.
I talked to him after the race. I think he said that was his best finish.
I feel like I'd remember it, but I forget many things. But again, that was another guy who had a fantastic race. I mean, again, his third was at the expense of Noah, so I'm not going to dismiss that fact because Noah had a tough situation there at the end of the race, and just like a short track, things got heated. I know that is a big reason I get scared away from putting short tracks on schedules. Is I just know that they put a big emotional strain
Yeah.
on everyone. Same thing with super speedways, but short tracks I feel like they really bring out the guns because it's tough. There's not a lot of space. I mean, it's exciting, it's thrilling. It was a great race to watch. I think. I mean, okay, minus the caution fest at the end, but it's for me. I may be wrong, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. But I know that's one thing I always have in the back of my mind every time we go to a short track is, man, I hope the arguments are not as bad as I think.
Well, I got to disagree a little bit with that comment, only because on any day at any track, something can just crank up. I mean, this weekend in Pocono, we could have 2 guys get into a war with each other. Indianapolis, you could have 2 guys get into a war with each other. Chicagoland, 2 seasons ago, there was the incident between Zach and JW. I was ready for a big war to break out after that race. But both handled with class and they moved on. So yeah, the short track, I think the chances of it happening are a lot higher. But I think any night, any race, any track, something could flare. That's why it's racing. So I wouldn't necessarily be hesitant to throw a short track onto a schedule worrying that, this guy's going to get mad at this guy or this is going to break out at this track. You never know. You had USA earlier this season. You had a wreck fest out of it. It happens. IRP was a fairly good race, and it turned into a little bit of a wreck fest. But then Bristol was one of the better races. So it's a 50-50 thing, and I think at every track it's a 50-50 thing. I mean, you guys could go to, and since the schedule's been announced, I'll go ahead and mention, you guys could go to Motegi next year and have 2 or 3 trucks wreck into each other, and it turns into a war for like the next 3 weeks because of a road course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
things happen. It's racing.
I mean, we
But
have
what I'm saying, it can happen at any track. So I wouldn't necessarily hesitate to put one track on the schedule because there's going to be issues because of the way the track is. But
I also think that's my bias, and I
fair.
will admit that right up front. But hey, after that last race, maybe I'm up for more short tracks. But I don't think. I think next season. I know I had a very heavy hand in making the season 5 schedule. I think already some of the other admins have expressed that maybe season 6 that I won't have as much input on it. So, but that's how it goes. Like, let me think. Season 1 was all Travis. Season 2 was, I think, like Travis and me. Season 3, I think, was mainly me. 4 was only Travis, and I think now 5 was pretty much just me. I mean, they had input on it too, so it's not like I made every decision. But now I know for 6, both Dean and Blaine are like, maybe you shouldn't say anything. But that's a conversation for another time. We talked about the schedules and that. I want to talk more about Zach. I think we're gonna have a great race at Pocono. I'm ready to talk more about Zach.
So Zach, what brought you to iRacing? Like what? Obviously, you being a young man, I know they have age restrictions, so we'll let the statute of limitations of that get out of the way here. What brought you to iRacing, and when did you actually start?
So, what brought me to iRacing was I was just like bored one day, like like most people my generation. So I went on YouTube and I just searched up like NASCAR games, and I saw iRacing. I think it was like a real Radman iRacing, like episode 1. I was like, I'll watch this, and I got interested and I started looking into stuff, and I joined the day after Christmas, I want to say.
And from there,
And what was that, like 2 or
I
3 years ago.
think it was like 2017 of Christmas, so it was
4 years ago.
yeah,
So you're sitting there as like an 11-year-old
Man,
on iRacing.
yeah,
Turns out.
yeah.
can I applaud your skill? Because I've been sim racing. I mean, on iRacing and other simulators, predominantly Gran Turismo, for a long time, and I'm just getting to the point where I would call myself sub mediocre. And the fact that, and maybe it's YouTube, I don't know, that'll be my excuse. Maybe you guys have good references. I mean, people got fast without, people could figure it out. Maybe I just never was good at figuring it out. But I'm blown away by what you guys can do. I mean, the amount of guys I've raced that are your age that are just freaky fast, it blows my mind. I am so impressed all the time that you guys are able to do that just so quick, because I've struggled so long for all these years to figure it out. But you mentioned Kyle Busch. Has he always been like that guy for you? You watched the races as a kid and that you just automatically gravitated toward him? I'm just curious how we all have that driver that we looked at as a kid that we have in our mind watching them race, and we think about their driving. Why was, and maybe I'm assuming a little bit, but why was he that for you?
So I remember one day my dad was just watching NASCAR on the TV. I came downstairs from my room. I saw it on and I was like, you know what? This looks pretty cool. And then I saw this ad with like Kyle Busch in it, and it was like, I don't remember what the ad was about, but it was like he looked really cool, and I was like, that and that driver looks great. And then I started watching him look a little bit more into him, and I was like, yep, he's definitely my favorite driver.
I got to ask the obvious question. I want to kind of bring up that, your intro into iRacing. Do you remember that conversation turning to your parents and being like, "Hey, got this thing I want to do. The wheel only cost me like $200. We'll just throw a number out there. 12 or at time $13 a month, or maybe 150 for the whole year. All these tracks that you have to spend $13 on, all these cars you got to spend $13 on. So month you got like $2,000 I can spend."
Oh, I was actually a pretty smart kid when it came to money, so I had like maybe 2 grand saved up at the time. I was
What?
like, I was like, hey mom, hey dad, like I was sweating bullets because I was like, are they gonna say no? I was like, there's this thing called iRacing. It looks really cool. I was curious if, I used my own money, but like on your credit card, but like I paid you back and I could get into this. And I was like so happy when they said yes. They were like, we're gonna think about it, but maybe that's a thing you can get for Christmas. And I was like so happy.
So 11 years old, he's putting out a loan.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Man, what was I doing as a kid? I'm just like, I don't even know when I think I got to saving around $2,000 after high school. Maybe.
I didn't see $2,000 until after I was married.
I was about to say but hey, I went to art school, so we can talk many times over about how intelligent I actually am. Oh man, that's just funny. What's like? This is just something I'm curious about. I know you're a Florida guy. Is Daytona the race for you? Or like, what's the race that you always think about looking forward to watching, going to? We all have that race in our mind that we can't wait to watch every year. What's
has
that
to
for
be
you?
Daytona. I mean, the Daytona 500, there's so much hype around it. And I mean, you just can't not go with Daytona if you live in Florida. Personally, I just feel like there's so much hype around it every year. The only downside of being a Kyle Busch fan is he's done all this great stuff except to win a Daytona 500. So every year I'm like so excited, and then he crashes or something, and I'm just filled with disappointment just because, that's like his last big check mark to cross out, and then boom, he's done all what I would say a successful career for NASCAR driver.
Oh, it's a Hall of Fame career. But, Sam, it goes back to what I said before. If you live in Florida, it's Daytona. If you're up in Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, up there in that Midwest, it's Indianapolis. If you're a fan of open wheel racing or like Formula One, stuff like that, then it falls into your category where it's Monaco or Belgium or Italy or something like that. I mean, some of these other places you might go, it could be something else. I mean, just depending on the region. I mean, you go out in the Midwest, it's probably Knoxville. You go out to, I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. If you go out west to like California, somewhere out there, then it might kind of be an interesting question off the top of my head. I can't really think of what track it would be, but
I mean, Laguna
maybe
Seca is super iconic.
Yeah.
The corkscrew, that's like a legendary race course there.
Maybe back in the day it could have been Riverside, maybe. Could it be Irwindale, maybe the short track? I mean, it's like
nah, Laguna Seca overall, that's a world renowned.
but that's for
so,
the road course fans. I'm thinking more
iconic.
like, okay,
True.
stock cars. Where I mean, if it's Irwindale, I mean, there's so many great short tracks out there. I mean, you think of like those who grew up over in like the Bakerfields, Kevin Harvick, Rick Corelli, Ron Hornaday, those guys. I mean, they all were used to tracks like, Kern County wasn't even around at that point. I mean, you had Mason Moran, you had, I'm just off the top of my head here, Irwindale, you had, just to name a few. I mean, Sonoma was still just kind of becoming something. So it's like, I think each region has its own. I mean, the Northeast, you probably look at some of the modified tracks, Thompson. You look at, Islip over on Long Island.
Wall Stadium.
Wall Stadium. Yeah, Wall Stadium's a good one. I mean, there's so many great tracks. Stafford Motor Speedway. And then, even on the roadside, Lime Rock, Watkins Glen. Just off the top of my head, those two road courses, VIR. So I think the region kind of breaks up. I'm pretty sure if you ask somebody from Virginia, we'll say, what's the biggest race to them, they're not going to say Daytona. They're probably going to go Martinsville, or they're going to go, somewhere up in that region with a track.
And, I think one race that that I'm surprised hasn't come up, because I know a lot of people who've gone to this race and love it, is the Bristol race. I know some people who swear by that race more than any other race on the calendar, that's the one they can't wait to go to. Now, we're doing a lot of track discussion, and this is something I'm curious about, Zach, because I don't want to say you have a type of racetrack you specifically accelerate at, because you've proven you can win at different different types of racetracks, flat tracks, high banks, high speed, short track, whatever.
Super speedways.
Well, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Pull out the stats. Pull out the stats.
Super speedways.
You could say.
What I was gonna say is, Zach, what's the type of track that you think brings out the best in yourself? Like, what are the characteristics of a track that make you excited to go there to race there? Like, I know you're good at like flat tracks. I don't know if you like flat tracks though. Like, is that something like a Milwaukee Mile or what we just did at IRP? You see at those styles of tracks, I feel like any track that has like no banking, you're automatically a threat. Is that a type of track you like, or is there actually something else that's your preferred favorite place to go to?
Heck, when you start winning at those types of tracks, you're gonna like them. But I mean, personally, I felt like one of my strong suit is the 1.5 miles. I know stats don't always show the best of me there. Like, I think I won Chicago and Charlotte once, but I mean, I feel like those are my best, just because, sure, to some people it's just, easy driving, but at the same time you gotta be thinking, I've got to save, I've got to do all this different stuff just to be competitive, and at the same time you gotta make sure you're not getting run over by the people behind just because you're saving.
Interesting. I just didn't know, okay, fine. I'll lead this into basically the next same question. What's your favorite track to go to on
iRacing? Oh, I've got to say, every time I see North Wilkesboro, I get pretty hyped.
Wow.
Interesting. I've never actually gotten to do a North Wilkesboro race in our league, because the one time I got it on the schedule, because I was excited to do it. That was when I had my sabbatical, we'll call it. Maybe we can get that back on the calendar. I like North Wilkesboro for a short track, and normally I don't like short tracks. But then
It
again,
is
maybe
quickly
that's
becoming
changing.
a favorite of mine on iRacing because of the multi-groove racing, which in real North Wilkesboro you never saw. I mean, you could see side by side, but it was pretty much on the bottom. I mean, here you get a long run, you're up against the wall in the corners, getting runs off.
I mean, yeah, that's why I like the track. It's got so many different characteristics and a lot of different tracks now. And I've got to say, the people in iRacing did such a good job remaking it.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at videos, and man, it looks great, and I just love racing there. I don't know why. Just my first time I ever raced there, I just started loving it.
Speaking of talking about tracks that iRacing has made, what's one that you do wish? What's a track that's not on the service that you
I'm,
wish was, both
I
existing
mean,
or not?
I really do wish like I this is probably a lot of people have asked for it, but I feel like Bowman Gray Stadium.
Mm.
That would be a great track, but I feel like if you're gonna run that in a league or something, that's got to be like an all-star race compared to anything else, just because of the fact, tempers are gonna flare, and I'm sure people aren't gonna be happy after the race.
Nothing happens at Bowman Gray Stadium. What do you mean?
It's the tamest track.
Yeah, it's just a little Sunday drive. I'll tell you the one I want. I wish they could make the Daytona Road and Beach
Oh,
course.
Mm. I could see them
I
doing
want
that.
that.
I could
I
see them
want that
doing that.
so bad.
maybe
I mean, it's like they've got the models for the dirt. I know it's not the same thing as sand, but you know what I mean. Like I want that so
maybe they
bad.
could like rescan like cars that used to race on there, and maybe like sell it like a bundle. I feel like that would be something interesting iRacing could do.
I mean, with Junior getting more and more in the fold with them, I think anything's possible. I think that I got that really planted in my head when I was watching his Lost Speedway show, and they did that, and I was fascinated by just that whole setup and how these things come to be. I think that might be one of my favorite things about just how NASCAR was born. You think about Formula One came from Grand Prix racing and gentleman drivers, and it was very much, again, it's always been high society. It's hard for a simple man to get into it. In NASCAR, starting from guys, again, the legends of running bootleg cars and the Prohibition era, and again, just like getting any old car to run on a beach and road course. Like I just love the spectacle of it. It's such a interesting history. Now, Chris, I know I've been rambling. Do you got any other questions you'd like to give to Zach here?
I
Or
think
is
it's
it
about rapid fire
time?
time here.
Oh,
Because I know we got some other things we got to touch on and go into. But yeah, should I start some rapid fires here? Because my
Please
questions
do.
might be the most interesting bunch of questions I've come up with for any of our three people so far. And I don't know what it is about Zach, but it seems like this list was easy to come up with.
all right, let's see him then.
All right. Question number 1. Who is your favorite PPM teammate?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's a hard one. Believe it or not, I feel like Dane. I know a lot of people are probably like, "What? He's crashed you multiple times," but something about him. Whenever I'm racing with him, I feel like I can click the most with him, and me and him, we kind of like communicate together when it comes to racing.
All right. So we'll wait next week when Colton and Noah take him out. All right.
They'll return the favor. How do you deal with the
Ah,
haters?
so at first, when I was on iRacing and people didn't like how I raced, they're like, "You're too aggressive," or "You're making these stupid moves." I would legitimately like think about it for like a while, but then I've just realized now that if you just don't listen to them and do your own thing, you can always prove them wrong.
Hmm. That was a
All right, all
metaphorical
right.
middle finger right there. All right. Question number 2. True or false? You and Colton Zimmer are best friends.
On iRacing or like just in general?
Either or.
On iRacing, I would say that's actually, I'd say we've gotten pretty close. So probably true for iRacing,
How
but
you like that, Sam?
but like in general, I do not
Hmm.
like, say we're best friends. Just like whenever I'm on my computer and just talking to him, I would say yeah. But like my friends outside of iRacing, I wouldn't say he's as close as them.
Interesting. Well, my number 2 question is, who's a racing driver that you think is way
Oh,
overrated?
oh, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one.
That's what this is
I
for.
feel like personally, Alex Bowman is a little overrated.
You got to
I
explain it. You got to explain yourself a
All
little bit.
right.
I say that
Yeah.
just because I personally think, well, the fact that sure he's like, he's obviously a good driver and he's probably better than I'll ever be, but I just feel like the 3 wins he's gotten this year, they've all been kind of, I wouldn't say luck, but I'd say they're a lot more not about the overall race compared to like, Larson's wins where he's like been up front the whole race. I feel like Bowman, he's just like super quiet, but towards the end, out of nowhere, he just comes, which what that happened at Pocono, Dover, and I'm not sure where you got his third one. Yeah, Richmond.
Richmond.
They were all out of nowhere.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you a
Interesting.
follow up
All
to
right.
that. So, if we were to go out on track and you had to choose a driver to be your teammate, we'll start
Mhm.
with this one real quickly. So, Alex Bowman or Austin Dillon?
Oh, I'd much rather have Alex Bowman than Austin Dillon, to be honest.
So you just said that Austin Dillon's now the most overrated driver.
I mean, all right, there's like a three-way tie. I wasn't really sure how to answer that because there's three drivers I feel like are overrated personally.
Well, you've named
All
2.
right,
Who's
I feel
3?
like the third one personally is I've got to go with. I hate to do it, but I'm even a fan of him. To be honest, I feel like Bubba Wallace, he's a little overrated
Mm.
personally. I know he's only been in the 2311 car for not even a full season, but I I don't know. I feel like he got overhyped very quickly just because of the fact he was on Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan's team, but I don't know. He'll probably prove me wrong in a few seasons when he's winning championships or something.
So let me follow up with another comparison question here because I think this is a good rebuttal to that. Would you take Bubba Wallace or Eric Amarola?
I've got to go. I feel like Eric Almirola would be a better fit personally.
Okay.
All right. That was an interesting little series.
Question
of
number
answers
3
there.
for you. Being the age you are, you were born, as you said, 2006.
Hmm.
Do you know who sings the song Baby Got Back?
Can't give you an answer.
We hear keyboards clacking. It is.
No answer. Huh?
Or-
Wow.
answer.
Sir
All
Mix-a-Lot.
I haven't even ever heard of that person.
That right there describes how old we are, Sam.
right.
The song's on the radio
Right.
still today.
I've got a follow-up question for you
Yeah.
guys, okay?
The Migos. Done.
No. Have you ever heard of Kid Leroy?
Well,
Isn't that a
he
brand
got
of
us. I
popcorn?
don't know. I don't.
Kid Leroy. What about Little Uzi Vert? Have you heard of?
I've heard of that one.
I've heard of
Right,
Little Uzi
there.
Vert.
Just had.
Now, please don't ask me to name
Yeah,
a song.
I'm
it is, 'cause
going
then
on
I
my
will
Spotify
completely
right
sound like
now
an
as we
idiot.
speak if he does that.
All right, I already asked you what's my typical what's the greatest race in the world question, so I'm gonna remove that from my list. But I'll ask, how mad were you when I absolutely ruined your championship race last year?
To be honest, I was pissed at first. Like I was so mad that like I wanted to punch my monitor. Mad at first, but then I calmed down and here's what I realized. I basically did the same thing to JW last year, so it's just karma catching up to me.
I mean, I hugely applaud your maturity on that because there are many people twice your age that would have not handled that at all that well. Like I remember when that happened, I just wanted to crawl into a corner and die. I never do good at my home track. I always do poorly there, and then I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna try and finish out this stint strong. And fresh tires, I got too loose. I think I was even trying to run purposely low on the track because you and Ricky were coming by, and I totally just lit them up and ruined everyone's day. But I applaud how well you handled all of that. Your maturity in that moment
I know
super
somebody
impressed me.
sitting
So
in the other seat
job well
right here
done.
that would have probably been that guy double his age that would have thrown something.
I mean, another way I see it is I was in Sam's position a few seasons ago, like, or maybe not a few seasons ago, but like when I was younger on iRacing, I would make mistakes, and people would get mad at me, for doing something completely stupid. But that just, I guess, helps me mature about, like, seeing mistakes, because at the end of the day, it's just a person learning.
Wise words. Wise words. All right, hit
Question
me
number
with another
4:
one,
what's the
Chris.
biggest win of the 10?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. It felt pretty good to end Ricky Springer's winning streak.
So the Phoenix win.
Yeah, it may have not been the flashiest win, but I'm not gonna lie. I felt like I climbed Mount Everest after beating Ricky Springer.
Good answer. Um, this may be an obvious question, but I wanted to include it in here anyway. Um, what real racing team would you want to race for in the
Ah,
future?
dude, like cup team or what? If
What future racing
I
team? It could
mean,
be
if
anything.
personally, I would want to drive for Joe Gibbs Racing as a Kyle Busch fan, but I've seen rumors all over the place that once Joe Gibbs, like, either retires or something happens to him, Kyle Busch will take over. I'm not sure how true that would be, because it's just speculation, and I feel like Coy Coy Gibbs, I want to say
Hmm.
that's his son, would
Yeah.
probably just take it over. But I mean, if I could drive for Joe Gibbs or Kyle Busch Motorsports, that would be like a dream.
It's interesting watching this change of the
Hmm.
guard that's happening in NASCAR right now. I mean, you got Gordon, who just got appointed to basically second in command at Hendricks,
Mhm.
set up to take that over. Denny Hamlin starts his own team. Brad Keselowski is now in with Roush Fenway, or if they're going to call it RFK or whatever. Um, it's interesting seeing these guys that we've seen in the sport for so long now really position themselves to try and um, be that next generation of leaders. And I just excluded Trackhouse, who are
Hmm.
having a great season, and as another young guy who's in charge of that team. So interesting. I knew that wasn't that fascinating of a question. I had a feeling you'd say them, but I was just
So
curious if it surprised me.
another one you can mention in there too is I think it's Go Fast is what it's called, the team with um BJ McLeod and oh God, what's that gentleman's name? The young kid.
Joey
Off the top of my head.
Gates.
I'm
No,
spacing on it
the one
right
he had
now.
brain tumor.
Oh,
Matt.
yeah, Matt Tift, I want to
Yeah,
say.
Tiff. Yeah. So I mean, you got that team too.
All right, I think you got your final
Here we
question,
go
there,
in
Chris.
another one of these. Yep, I know what this answer is going to be. It's going to make me feel old. Do you know who Al Bundy is?
Heard of him? No idea who he is.
So Sam, those nights, every night we'd come home and turn on Fox at 7 p.m. and there's Married with Children and Al Bundy on TV.
Hmm.
Oh, all right. Well, enough of this old people stuff. I want to talk not about the past but the
Ooh.
future. So, what do you want to be when you grow
Well,
up, Zach?
for a while I was a race car driver, but I soon matured to realize that's not happening. So, I mean, personally, I feel like it would my dream job would probably be just I guess I guess work at a NASCAR team, whether it be like, just a pit crew job or something like that. I feel like just being involved in the sport would be a great job.
Nothing wrong with that. And obviously, there's plenty of opportunity to do that. I mean, obviously, getting to know people who are going to school for it. I mean, you look at uh, where we talked to Ricky Springer earlier. He goes to UNOH up there in Ohio. That's becoming a really big factory for NASCAR members to come
Yeah.
out of. Of course, you get UTI over in Concord,
Mhm.
Kannapolis, Mooresville area. That that school obviously produces a lot of people. So I mean, there's plenty of chances to do so, and you got teams everywhere. I mean, hell, I'm in Northeast Georgia, and Brian Sieg Racing is right down the road from where I'm
Mhm.
at here. You got Jeremy Clements in South Carolina. I'm sure there's probably teams down in Florida, but of course, the most of them are in North Carolina, though.
Yeah.
It's funny how you guys are talking about all the different stuff that's around you guys for NASCAR. The only jobs that are around
Yeah,
here are IndyCar. I mean, it's funny. The closest shop I know of is actually Dale
Dale Coyne.
Conti.
Dale Coyne.
I'm saying it wrong. Yeah. They're out of town, not like 20 minutes from where I live right now. That's where, I mean, I know it's Rick Ware Racing, but they're associated with Rick Ware Racing, and that's the team that Roman
Mm-hmm.
Grosjean races for. It's funny, he's always posting stuff in his Instagram around Chicago, and I'm just like, I'm gonna see him one day. I'm gonna see him one day. So yeah, I mean, I hope that I hope wherever your career leads you, that you find fulfillment and joy in doing that, because
Yeah.
that's hard to do. Um, but just it's a fine balance, because I was always told, do what you want and you'll never work a day in your life, and that's not true. Because I went to art school
Mhm.
for photography and videography, and I do that, and it's still work. So, um, Chris, are you really gonna drag out your big news to the very end? I thought you were gonna sneak it in there at the front with the GSLR news segment I
I
made
was waiting
for
for
you,
you to tell
but
me to do it,
come on.
so I'm just kind of hanging out here and
Well, I did the hello. This is GSLR news, so it's a breaking news segment.
well,
I'm here. It's Dick Richardson with Chris
well,
Scallop. What's
the
the big
thing
news,
about it
Chris?
is like I've been playing mind games for like a whole entire week with everybody, and hell, I've been doing it during this podcast recording. I went out in the middle of you guys talking and put a post out of Zach Allman being in the podcast chat with us, and I said, "Is Zach Allman being my first team member announcement?" I started that up during the stream because I figured, we got to have a little fun with this. I'm not about making things about me, but I'm like, I want to make the silly season fun and do a little bit of just mind games with people and stuff like that. So here's the deal. Zach actually became the perfect guest today. And when it happened, I'm like, okay, this just made my day. Because I'm going to ask this question to start with. Zach,
Mhm.
where does PPM come from?
Like, what do you mean?
Like your team, like it came together. Who do you guys work with?
Like an owner or like?
Yes.
Oh, well, I guess Caden and Dane are like owners, but we also, you know them. We're also pretty like it's like our third owner, I guess. It's pretty complicated, but got three owners: Caden, Dane, and Dylan Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Dylan, his dream with the team is really just to get it into the Coke series, and then Caden and Dane, they're just along for the ride.
So with Dylan, he I believe has a partner that he works with, or some people he works with
Uh
on another team.
oh, TI Racing.
Mm-hmm.
What PPM was called for a little bit, TI Racing, but then eventually I guess Dylan decided just to, turn it into PPM, which was in Great Lakes for season one. Some of y'all remember that. But completely same name, but a different team compared to season one.
So Sam, things go full circle here. Bam. As the new team that's coming in next season, that's going to have me as an owner,
Hmm.
is going to be known as TIX Racing. And basically what it is a team that consists of what was my team in the old TI series, IndyCar series called Extreme Sim Racers. So I'm just going with the Extreme and bringing in TI to join the X to make TIX Racing. So what it is a partnership with me and Chris Lewis, who runs TI, and we're bringing a team over of 4 drivers to run in Great Lakes next season. That's going to bring sponsorships with them.
I mean,
So, with that said, the 4 drivers, I'm going to go ahead and say now, are not GLSR drivers. So that whole mind games just totally won that battle because everybody's like, they're stealing from our teams. I didn't know. Now, did I originally want to steal from team and not steal from teams? No, I didn't want to steal from them, but I was looking for free agents because before all this came together, I was looking to just create a team out of free agents. But then the deal came together with Chris, and I'm like, I got something here. So we'll start there.
I think PPM and your team are actually going to be a lot closer than you think, considering we kind of have that middleman with Chris Lewis.
The problem is these guys are ready to come in and whoop PPM's butt. Oh,
please tell me you were not actually lying about the Bobby Zelensky. If he joins, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I don't even open my mouth and I've got this guy scared. You see this, right? So let me introduce you.
Look, if Zach is scared, I'm terrified. I'm just some guy trying to survive.
Well, I've got a little introduction. I'm going to introduce all 4 guys right now for you to know. Okay. I got all 4, and I get little bios of them. I got them all to send me stuff.
All right.
So I'm going to start with the guy who, this guy here is from West Virginia, 23 years old. Pretty cool cat. He enjoys video games, hunting, fishing, and anything outdoors. And his name is Tim Abrell. Okay. Or Abril. I don't know how to say his name. But anyways, he's going to be the first truck driver. Young kid. Good kid. My second driver is a 19-year-old. And he is a pretty athletic 19-year-old. Like, he's played 8 sports in his life. Apparently, he's done like wrestling and all these different things.
I think I know who it is.
Who is it?
If I'm wrong, I'm going to sound super stupid, but is it Logan Kress?
No, it's not Logan Kress.
Thank God. If it was Logan.
It is Bryce McCoon is going to be the second driver. My third driver is one that some might know from, he's actually a little older. He's like just near 30. He was actually a baseball pitcher for the University of Louisville at one point back in the mid-2000s. Or 2015 area in that point. And he's a pretty good driver, and he's actually, I'm looking forward to watching this guy on track with some of these guys, but I'm talking about Brandon Alphin. Pretty good kid there. And this fourth one, a lot of drivers are going to know from our league because his dad races in our league. Yep. What? This kid's from Texas. And he actually races. He's actually not affiliated with TI. He comes over from where I raced at in the league I run and stuff like that. He raced over there with his dad. Of course, his dad races here, when he can and stuff like that. But he's been wanting to be a part of this league. He's actually already been ready to come race at the league this season, but we held off because, players have started. Let's not go start any trouble or anything like that. But I'm talking about young Cameron Ingram. That's the son of Cedric. Is going to be the fourth guy on our team.
This really?
Man,
there's a lot happening right now. So we're gonna have the father and son on different, just like teams. Just like this is gonna be fascinating. I am. I'm trying to think of every driver. I'm like, who has a kid that's old enough to race? I was really, I mean, apologies, Cedric, but that's interesting. All right, folks, you heard it here first. TIX Racing is coming in full force to take down PPM and their empire, and DUR will be somewhere adrift.
It's going to be fun. You know what? Bringing in 4 drivers who I feel are going to be clean, respectful. That was part of it because I didn't want to do this and bring in, arrogant people who just think they run the world and will complain left and right about, oh, this guy stepped on my toe wrong type of deal. I wanted to bring in guys who I knew would be respectful, that could bring in maybe some sponsors to help this league grow even more, and get it out there so that, you guys have 20 plus drivers every week. Not that you have that issue already, but if you can get 20 to 25 really good drivers out here, and with the way the team structure is, with the way I won't get into the money too much, but the way you guys do awards with prizes, the fantasy stuff, the podcast now, I mean, I felt like this was the perfect opportunity for me to be like, let me see what I can do here and build this league even more from a team owner standpoint. But, at the same time, let everybody know, look, when the race is on, I'm the broadcaster. That's all I am. Once the race ends, the broadcast ends, at that point, I step down and, I'll talk with the team and we have fun as a league. I want that to also be known too. You're not going to see me go nuts because Brandon or Cameron or one of those guys go and win a race. I mean, I'm going to call that race the same as I do every other race. And that's kind of the reason I kept the captain name out of the team name, because it's like, I don't want anything being confused. Oh, this guy runs this team. No wonder why they're so damn good, or no wonder he's always talking about him and stuff. I don't want any of that. That's not about me. It's not about me. This is about the league and about those guys being in here racing.
Well, I am already so excited for season 5. I know the choice to have no stereotypical super speedway to start the season was still controversial, but I stand by it. I cannot wait for our race at Auto Club. I think it's going to be fantastic, and especially with, again, you're bringing in 4 new guys, full team. It's going to be exciting. Zach, thank you for coming on the show. I look forward to watching you keep getting better and better. I mean, again, at your young age, you're still an incredible talent, so it's going to be awesome to watch you keep progressing. Is there anyone you want to shout out, your social handles, Twitch, whatever?
I guess I got to shout out my sponsors according to my team owners, because I told them, they're like, you got to shout out your sponsors. So
I know one of your team owners.
So I guess I got a shout out to Dream Clothing, Glitch Energy. Use code PPM for 10% off, and Surfshark VPN. But also want to thank you guys for letting me on the show. This was a very new but fun opportunity. I also want to, I guess, thank Travis and everyone really for putting on such a great league, and Peak Performance Motorsports, obviously.
The one thing I want to add real quick before you sign off there, one thing that I have to say in this last hour that we've talked, I'm one that jokes around with Zach and that whole team and have fun with them and stuff like that. And because Zach's, let's face it, I'm easy to pick on. A lot of guys are easy to pick on and on fun matter. I'm going to honestly say right now, in the last hour, I have been more impressed getting to know Zach as a human being, and say, for somebody who's only 15 years old, one, you said already how mature he sounds, but 2, the street smarts that I'm hearing out of him is very impressive. So I'm going to be straight up real with you right there. I'm really impressed by that.
Well, that goes double for me too. So, guys, for everyone listening, thank you for listening to our show. Next, in a few days, round 2 of the playoffs, it's Pocono. You know where to find it. Go to Captain TV 9 EST. And
you said Pocono.
Oh, so that's right. We hadn't got you singing yet this whole episode, so we had to get it in there. All right. Go to GreatLakesSimRacing.com, see where the playoff standings are. Go play our fantasy game. Win yourself a butt kicker. Why haven't you played our fantasy game yet? In any case, thank you for listening, and we are just here for the GLSR.